Any questions so far, all of you? Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, so now how do we configure our search results? So basically for that, let me open up a configuring, which is, let me close this. So this is a file I need. Configure the test plan. So how do you configure? For that we need to understand. So here, see that. So this is the structure of the, once you create a plan, this will be looking like. So what will be the elements of JMeter? So first will be test plan. You want to see that here? Parallelly, I want to show you here, test plan. Now inside that, you may have a configuration elements, thread group, listener, and test fragment. If you look at it very carefully, inside the thread group, you'll have sampler and controller. Okay, sampler or controller. If you look at this inside the sampler, you have a timer, or if you see that very carefully under the controller, you have a sampler and then post processor and assertions. So what exactly this is? So basically, I'll put it in this way: thread group, the one which you see, basically which is representing the number of users. Okay, so let me add one by one while talking also. So thread group, here I'm adding a thread group, and here you see number of users. How many number of users? Let's say 5 number of users. And here infinite, that means every time 5 number of users will make a call to my application. So that's called thread group. Now second thing which you see here, you have a sampler. So sampler, it can be any types of request which you want to create it. So for that, here I'm adding a sampler. Here you see a lot of samplers are there: HTTP request, debug sampler, SMTP, this, that, and all. So a lot of sampler. HTTP is request is very simple to go ahead. Now for this, you require applications. So which applications I'm going to use it? So I'm going to use very simple applications, which is Rajesh Kumar.xyz. Okay, so that I want to know what is the performance metrics for this website. Okay, so here this is the HTTPS, by the way. Okay, so go for HTTPS, and this is the name of it, and page index.html you can give it. Okay, so this is the sampler where the request will go. Now if you see that here you have a controller. So controller, you may have a sampler without controller also, and you may have a sampler with the controller also. So what is a controller there? So controller is like a if condition. Okay, if else something like a condition. So if controller is true, then only the sampler will run. If controller is not true, then sampler will not run. So here you can add it, the controller, but right now I'll not make any sense. See, logic controller, if controller, loop controller, while controller. So all these controllers has to be true. So here you can add a conditions like this. So like this, if controller is true, then run this. So here what you can set any variables. Here you see expression, here true, false, what exactly you want to do. If controller, I said if this is true, then run this. If it's not true, not run this. So here use of last sample. So this is the way you can check the variable or something like that. Right now, not complicating too much, so just I'll delete this. Okay, so add a sampler, HTTP request, again HTTPS, and front end, and here 84 index.html, 84 by default, and so on. Now here you have a timer also. So timer which will help you to delay the request between the two users. So here you can add a timer here, constant timer by 300 milliseconds, or whatever you want to delay and stuff like that. And if you want to run some script preprocessor or processors and stuff like that, you can do that. Now one thing which you see, the assertions we did discuss in the Selenium also, to verify whether that test will pass or test will fail. So for that also you can run the assertions. So for that, let's add our assertions here, and response assertion. And that means if the response code is something, then it will pass. if it response code is not something which will not pass. So here what you want, so response code 200, that means this is a pass the test. So like that. So here you got a thread group, number of users 5, HTTP request, constant timer, response assertions you added, and all this thing. Now what I want, there's some sort of reporting also I wanted. So that we call it listener. Okay, please remember listener we call it. So right now you see that it's not there. It's there. Listener is there in top. Okay, so you have a listener. So I'm going to add a listener somewhere here, and listener will record all the information like the whatever the results of the request. This will be recorded in the listeners. So primarily it's a 4 types of listener. You see that 3 already I have added. Okay, so like this you'll create a test plan and create a save and saved it. So now let's recap the stuff. And configuration element, you can pass the user ID and password, some variable and value like that. So like this, what is the root plan, test plan? The test plan, which is a root element of the test, where its overall settings are specified and all other elements are contained. Here thread group is equal to number of users which you set it up. Configuration elements, where you can set the value and variables and which you can use it later in anywhere as many times you want. So different types of variables you can add it in the configuration elements. Controller and samplers, which I told you. Controller, which is decide when to run the sampler, and sampler, which is basically running the real request. So sampler, it can be many different types of sampler, HTTP request or FTP request, JDBC request or something like that. A lot of samplers are there, types of sampler. One of these I am using in HTTP sampler. That means I want to test my web applications. And a timer, which will introduce the delay pause between the request. Assertions, which will help you to validate the response is as expected or not. And a listener, which will capture all the responses and represent in a different matrix like a graph, table, tree, and a logs. Okay, that's all. These are the things which you have to understand. Are you comfortable with it, all of you?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm going to run this. So let's start the traffic, and now let's see here HTTP request, because it's coming 200 every test case is passed, but I'll stop it. And in the assertions, I'll say, hey, if I get the request 300, then only it should pass. So 300 and then save it, which is not real, but 300. And now see that it's failing now. Clear? See, all our requests are failing because all test cases are failing. So you can explore this. Why is failing? Because of resurgence. Return is 300, 200, but you are getting 300 expecting. Okay. So like that, these are the different reports. 32 samples. Let me stop it one more time, and let's go for assertions. Change this and make it 200. And save this, and let me run one more. Look at this here, clear this here. Now again it's passing. Now you want to understand this whole things. See that this is the sample results, this is a sample request, this is the response data which you are getting from rajeshkumar.xyz and stuff like that. Now here this is a summary reports, 58, 60, 59 all, and aggregation. So you'll see average response time is 557 milliseconds. Minimum, maximum, standard deviation, percentage of error, almost 32%. It's a very high. Throughput you have here, received in kilobytes, sent in kilobytes, average and all. So this is the reports, and you can find out whether your application is performing well as per expectation given a load. So now you want to increase the load, you can do that here, 5 users to 10 users. In real time, we'll be having thousands of users, by the way. But right now, if I do that, my system will hang and I'll not be able to show you anything. So clear this here, and now you see that. So guys, are you understanding, all of you? This is your JMeter. Using that, you can do the performance testing for your applications, or you can do for databases also. You can create some request for SQL insert, delete or something like that, and you can test that how it is going through. Any questions? Any doubts?
So this will be regist, right? Till
Yeah,
I
this
can
will
stop it
continue.
manually.
You have to stop manually. So you can increase the thread and you can run it for 1 hour and see the reports, and you can find out, okay, in 1 hour this many traffic, and this was the P90, P95, P99 percentile. These all are percentile, minimum, maximum, errors, throughput, and all this stuff like that. So guys, are you getting it, all of you? Okay, so this is the JMeter. I'll send you the step-by-step guide for this also. Anyways, you'll have a recordings also, but one step-by-step guide, which will help you to understand all this thing.
Thanks for watching. Want to study further? Join our training programs today.